Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are absolutely distilling decades of pure marketing genius from Ries and Jack Trout into one powerful, easy-to-digest guide. We're going to unpack the core concepts from their frankly legendary book, The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. So if you've ever sat there wondering why some beautifully designed, perfectly engineered products just fail miserably, while seemingly average ones totally conquer the globe, well, you are in exactly the right place. Okay, let's dive right into this. Right off the bat, Ries and Trout hit us with a massive paradigm shift. I mean, we all accept that physics has gravity, right? You drop an apple, it falls to the floor. Well, they argue that marketing operates under similarly rigid laws. It's like if you try to defy gravity, you're going to get hurt. And if you try to defy these fundamental laws of marketing, your campaign is going to crash and burn, literally no matter how much time, energy, or money you throw at it. To really grasp these laws, we first have to completely shatter the ultimate illusion in the business world. It's this grand myth that almost all managers fall for. They think marketing is a battle of products. You know, the idea that if you just build a better, faster, or cheaper product, you'll automatically win. But the harsh reality? Marketing is entirely a battle of perception. The best perception wins, always. It's not about the best product at all. Now, since 22 laws is a whole lot to digest in one sitting, we've bundled these immutable rules into 5 strategic battlegrounds for this explainer. First step, the perception illusion. Second, first to the mind. Third, the battle of focus. Fourth, the power of sacrifice. And finally, surviving market realities. Starting off with section 1, the perception illusion. Basically, objective reality does not exist. Think about the massive gap between Toyota and Honda in Japan. Over there, Toyota actually sells 4 times as many automobiles as Honda. Now, if you ask an American consumer, they'll likely tell you Honda and Toyota make cars of pretty much identical quality. But in Japan, Honda is perceived primarily as a motorcycle company. And honestly, would you want to buy a family car from a motorcycle company? That deeply ingrained perception completely overpowers the actual physical reality of the cars Honda is building. Let that sink in for a second. Marketing is a battle of perceptions, not products. Think about it. Most people don't go out and rigorously test every single option on the market before they buy something. They form their truths based on just a passing, ad hoc experience or, honestly, entirely on secondhand information. They hear a rumor from a friend and boom, that becomes their unshakable reality. Your job isn't just to make the best thing, it's to plant the exact right perception of that thing directly into their brain. Which leads us to section 2, first to the mind. Simply put, being first is the absolute best. So how do you actually establish that vital perception in the consumer's head? The answer is surprisingly simple. Be the first one there. Human minds are incredibly sticky when it comes to the very first thing they encounter, and fiercely resistant to everything that follows. I mean, we vividly remember the firsts, right? Heineken as the first imported beer, Harvard as the first college in America, Amelia Earhart as the first woman to fly the Atlantic solo. But try naming the second in any of those categories. It's almost impossible. But you might be wondering, what if you aren't the first to market? That's exactly where the brilliant law of the category comes into play. If you aren't the first in a category, just invent a new one where you are. Forget trying to compete on a brand level, think entirely in terms of categories. Look at Dell. They didn't succeed by just building a marginally better PC than IBM. No, they succeeded because they were the very first to sell PCs directly over the phone. They essentially invented a brand new category and owned it instantly. And this actually illustrates a related concept perfectly, the law of division. Categories do not merge over time as industries mature. They divide. It's like an amoeba splitting. Computers started as these massive mainframes. Then they split into mini-computers, then workstations, then PCs, and now tablets. The fatal mistake companies make is trying to stretch one single brand name across all these new divisions. When a category splits, you absolutely must create a totally new brand for that new segment if you want to dominate it. Moving on to section 3, the battle of focus. This is all about owning a single word. The law of focus dictates that successful marketing basically acts like a giant magnifying glass. You want to focus the sun's rays to burn one simple, unowned word permanently into your prospect's mind. Take a look at these absolute masterclasses in focus. FedEx completely owns overnight. Volvo owns safety. Crest owns cavities. When you hear the word, you instantly think of the brand. And when you think of the brand, you hear the word. It's a complete mental lock. But what happens as a market matures over the years? Well, the law of duality states that over time, the mental ladder of options in a consumer's head shrinks. Eventually, the long-term battle inevitably comes down to just two major players: Crest versus Colgate's, Nike versus Reebok, Coke versus Pepsi. Everyone else is basically just a supporting character fighting for unstable scraps at the bottom. So, what do you do if you find yourself as that number two player fighting the giant? You use the law of the opposite. You must never, ever try to emulate the leader. Actually, scratch that. It's worse than just not emulating them. You have to be their complete opposite. If Listerine is known for being super effective but having terrible medicine breath, Scope shouldn't try to out-medicine them. Instead, Scope presents itself as the direct alternative, the good-tasting mouthwash. You find the leader's strength, locate the inherent weakness within that strength, and make that your total focus. Now, here's a crazy thought. Why on earth would you ever willingly admit to a negative trait about your own product in a national marketing campaign? It sounds completely backward and counterintuitive, doesn't it? Enter the law of candor. When Avis came out and declared, "Avis is only number 2 in rent-a-cars, so why go with us? We try harder." It was an absolute stroke of genius. Admitting a negative is so remarkably unexpected in advertising that it's profoundly refreshing to people. The moment you admit a negative, the consumer's defensive shields just drop. They instantly accept it as truth, which completely opens up their mind to accept the positive point you're going to make right after. Let's shift to section 4, the power of sacrifice, where less is actually much more. We've talked a lot about external battles, but the internal battles inside a company are often far more brutal. This is captured perfectly by the law of line extensions. When a company like IBM gets wildly successful, their corporate ego inflates. They start believing they can win at absolutely everything. So they dilute their power by stamping their highly successful brand name onto completely unrelated products, telephones, copiers, software. By trying to be everything to everyone, they inevitably end up meaning nothing to anyone. The only real antidote to this ego trap is the law of sacrifice. To be truly successful, you have to give something up. Specialization always beats generalization. A great example? Interstate Departmental Stores was failing as a generic retailer, but they made the painfully hard yet brilliant decision to sacrifice almost their entire product line and focus purely on toys. They renamed themselves Toys R Us and became an absolute juggernaut. Sacrifice a full product line, sacrifice a broad target market, or sacrifice constant strategic changes, but you absolutely must sacrifice. And finally, Section 5, surviving market realities, navigating the real world. Because let's face it, no matter how perfectly you follow the laws of the mind, you still have to navigate the harsh realities of the real world out there. The first reality check is the law of hype. Listen, what is reported on the front page of the press is very often the exact opposite of reality. If things are going well, a company doesn't actually need hype. Hype usually means sales are sluggish. Take Coca-Cola's launch of New Coke. It generated $1 billion worth of free, frenzied publicity. The press treated it like a cultural revolution. In reality, it was an unmitigated disaster that had to be humiliatingly reversed in just 90 days. You also have to navigate the law of acceleration, which is all about understanding the crucial difference between fads and trends. A fad is like a wave. It's highly visible, it goes up incredibly fast, and it crashes hard. A trend, on the other hand, is like the tide. It's almost invisible at first, but it's incredibly powerful over the long haul. The classic trap is treating a fad like a trend and overextending all your resources. The smartest marketers out there actually dampen early demand. They starve a fad just slightly to stretch it out into a long-term, profitable trend. And we conclude these core rules with the coldest, hardest reality of all, the law of resources. You can have the single greatest positioning idea in the entire history of business, but if you don't have the funding to burn that idea into the consumer's mind, it's totally worthless. You have to find the money. Whether that means franchising your idea, like Tom Monahan did with Domino's Pizza, or leaning on wealthy family backing, you need heavy resources to get into people's minds and stay there. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final provocative question. I want you to look at your own business, your own brand, or whatever projects you're working on right now. Are you exhausting yourself fighting a product battle rooted in objective reality? Or are you cleverly fighting the perception battle, Remember, the mind takes precedence over the marketplace. Win the mind, and you win the market. Keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.